from ordinary beginnings to national leadership. When you hear the name Narendra Modi, you probably think of one of the most powerful leaders in the world today. But his story didn't start with power, fame, or privilege. It began in a small town, with limited resources, where survival itself was a daily challenge. This is not just a political story, it's a transformation story, a journey from ground reality to the highest office in the country. Narendra Modi's life is often discussed in terms of success and leadership, but to truly understand him, you have to go back to the very beginning. Imagine growing up in a modest family where financial struggles are constant, where education is not guaranteed, and where opportunities are rare. That was his reality. Unlike many leaders who come from elite backgrounds, Modi's roots were deeply connected to the common people of India. What makes this story interesting is not just where he reached, but how he reached there. His journey includes phases of self-discovery, discipline, ideological influence, and strategic growth. It's a mix of personal ambition, strong belief systems, and calculated decisions. Whether someone agrees with his politics or not, the trajectory of his life is undeniably impactful and worth understanding from a factual and analytical perspective. In this video, we're going to break down Narendra Modi's life step by step, from his childhood struggles to his rise in politics, and eventually becoming the Prime Minister of India. No assumptions, no blind admiration, no blind criticism, just a clear, structured look at his life so that even if you know nothing about him, by the end, you'll have a complete understanding of his journey. Early life, childhood in a small town. Narendra Modi was born on September 17, 1950, in a small town called Vadnagar, located in the state of Gujarat. His family belonged to a lower middle-class background, which meant life was not easy. His father, Damodardas Mulchand Modi, ran a small tea stall, and his mother, Hiraben Modi, managed the household with very limited resources. There was no luxury, no privilege, just survival and hard work. As a child, Modi was not someone who grew up in comfort. In fact, one of the most widely discussed aspects of his early life is that he helped his father sell tea at a railway station. This wasn't a symbolic story, it reflects the economic reality he lived in. Waking up early, working alongside family, and balancing school with responsibilities became part of his routine. This kind of environment naturally builds discipline and resilience from a very young age. Despite financial struggles, he attended school in Vadnagar and was known to be an average student academically but highly active outside the classroom. He showed interest in debates, theater, and public speaking, early signs of the communication skills that would later define his political career. He also had a strong curiosity about the world, often questioning things and showing a desire to explore beyond his immediate surroundings. What's important to understand here is that his childhood was not shaped by structured opportunities but by constraints. And constraints force adaptation. Living in a resource-limited environment often pushes individuals to develop practical intelligence, the ability to navigate real-life problems efficiently. This phase of his life laid the psychological foundation for his later decisions, shaping his mindset toward discipline, self-reliance, and long-term ambition. Search for purpose, the phase of exploration. After completing his schooling, Narendra Modi did not immediately follow a conventional career path like most people around him. Instead of choosing a stable job or higher education in a traditional sense, he entered a phase of exploration. This period is crucial because it shaped his worldview and personal philosophy. As a young man, Modi left his home and traveled across different parts of India. This wasn't tourism, it was more like a search for meaning and direction. He visited places like Rishikesh and the Himalayas, where many individuals go seeking spiritual understanding or clarity about life. During this time, he lived a minimalistic lifestyle, observing different cultures, people, and belief systems. From a rational perspective, this phase can be seen as a psychological reset. When someone steps away from their environment and routine, they gain a broader perspective on society. Modi's exposure to different regions and lifestyles likely helped him understand the diversity and complexity of India at a ground level. This is something you can't learn from books alone, it requires direct experience. Eventually, after this period of exploration, he returned with a more focused mindset. Instead of drifting without direction, he began to align himself with a structured organization that matched his ideological inclinations. This marked the end of his exploratory phase and the beginning of a more disciplined and goal-oriented journey, one that would eventually lead him into the world of politics. Entry into organized ideology, joining the RSS. After his phase of exploration, Narendra Modi began looking for structure and direction in his life. This is when he got closely associated with the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, commonly known as RSS. This organization focuses on discipline, nationalism, and grassroots-level social work, and it played a major role in shaping Modi's early career. He started as a precaric, a full-time worker, which is not just a job but a lifestyle. Pracharaks are expected to dedicate their entire life to the organization, often living a minimalistic and highly disciplined life. Modi followed a strict routine, waking up early, attending training sessions, organizing events, and working closely with communities. This phase was less about personal gain and more about building ideological clarity and organizational skills. One key thing to understand here is that the RSS operates on a very structured system. It trains individuals in leadership, communication, and management at the ground level. Modi learned how to manage people, coordinate large groups, and handle responsibilities efficiently. These are practical skills that later became extremely useful in his political journey. From a logical perspective, this phase was like a real-world training ground. Instead of theoretical learning, he was constantly involved in execution, planning, organizing, and adapting to real situations. Over time, his dedication and efficiency made him stand out within the organization, setting the stage for his entry into mainstream politics. Entry into politics, rise within the BJP. After years of working with the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, Narendra Modi transitioned into active politics through the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. This wasn't a random shift. The RSS often supports and channels its trained members into political roles, and Modi was seen as someone with strong organizational and leadership potential. In the early stages, Modi did not contest elections or hold public office. Instead, he worked behind the scenes, focusing on strategy, planning, and party expansion. He was involved in organizing campaigns, managing logistics, and strengthening the party's presence at the grassroots level. This role might seem less visible, but it's actually where real political influence starts, understanding voter behavior, building networks, and executing plans efficiently. One of the key turning points in his early political career was his involvement in major political campaigns during the late 1980s and early 1990s. His ability to manage complex operations and deliver results under pressure made him stand out within the BJP. He gained a reputation as someone who could handle large-scale responsibilities with precision and discipline. From a practical perspective, this phase was like climbing the system step by step. Instead of jumping directly into power, Modi built his position gradually by proving his efficiency in real situations. He developed a deep understanding of political mechanics, how parties function, how strategies are executed, and how public perception is shaped. This foundation became critical for his future rise to leadership positions. Becoming chief minister, the Gujarat phase begins. The real turning point in Narendra Modi's political career came in 2001, when he was appointed as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. This was a sudden and high-stakes move. Until then, he had mostly worked behind the scenes and had very limited experience in holding public office. Now, he was directly responsible for governing an entire state. When Modi took charge, Gujarat was facing multiple challenges, including the aftermath of a devastating earthquake in 2001. Infrastructure damage, economic disruption, and administrative pressure created a complex situation. This phase tested his ability to move from strategy to execution at the highest level. Managing a state is not theoretical, it requires decision-making under uncertainty, resource allocation, and constant public accountability. In 2002, Gujarat witnessed one of the most controversial and tragic events in its history, the 2002 Gujarat riots. This incident brought massive national and international attention to Modi's leadership. His role and response during this period have been widely debated, criticized, and defended from different perspectives. This event became a defining and polarizing chapter in his political journey. Despite the controversy, Modi continued in power and shifted focus toward economic development and governance. Over the years, Gujarat saw growth in infrastructure, industry, and investment, leading to what many called the Gujarat model. From a practical standpoint, this phase established him as a strong administrator with a results-driven approach, while also making him one of the most debated political figures in India. National spotlight, from state leader to national figure. After years of serving as Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi began gaining attention at the national level. His governance style, focus on infrastructure, and emphasis on economic growth made him stand out among other state leaders. Gradually, he was no longer seen as just a regional politician but as a potential national leader. One of the major factors behind this rise was his ability to build a strong public image. Modi positioned himself as a leader focused on development, efficiency, and decisive action. Through speeches, public rallies, and media presence, he connected directly with large audiences. This phase also saw the increasing use of technology and social media in political communication, which helped amplify his reach across the country. Within the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, discussions began about projecting a strong face for national elections. In 2013, Modi was officially declared the party's prime ministerial candidate. This decision was strategic. The party needed a leader who could mobilize voters at scale, and Modi had already demonstrated that capability through his campaigns and administrative track record. From a logical perspective, this phase was about scaling influence. Moving from state-level leadership to national politics requires a shift in strategy, broader messaging, wider appeal, and stronger narrative building. Modi managed to create a clear identity, a leader who promises development and decisive governance. This positioning set the stage for one of the most significant elections in India's history. Becoming Prime Minister, the 2014 election. In 2014, Narendra Modi led the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, into the general elections with a highly focused and aggressive campaign. The messaging was clear: development, strong leadership, and change. Unlike traditional campaigns, this one heavily used technology, data, and social media to reach millions of voters directly. The election itself, known as the 2014 Indian general election, turned out to be historic. The BJP secured a full majority in the Lok Sabha, something that hadn't happened for a single party in decades. This victory was not just political, it reflected a major shift in voter behavior and expectations. People were looking for strong leadership and faster decision-making. Once he became Prime Minister, Modi's role changed completely. Running a country is far more complex than managing a state. It involves handling the economy, foreign relations, national security, and multiple internal challenges simultaneously. His government launched several initiatives focused on financial inclusion, digital infrastructure, and policy reforms. From a practical point of view, this phase represents execution at the highest level. Campaign promises now had to be translated into real-world results. Policies had to work not just in theory but across a diverse and massive population. This is where leadership is truly tested, not by speeches, but by outcomes and long-term impact. Leadership, policies, and global presence. After becoming Prime Minister, Narendra Modi entered a phase where his decisions directly impacted over 1 billion people. His government introduced several major policies aimed at transforming different sectors of the economy and governance system. Some of the most talked about initiatives included the Demonetisation in India 2016, the introduction of the Goods and Services Tax in India, GST, and the push for digital transactions through programs like Digital India. These policies had mixed outcomes depending on perspective. For example, demonetization was intended to reduce black money and increase transparency, but it also caused short-term disruption in the economy. GST aimed to simplify the tax system, though its implementation faced initial challenges. From a rational point of view, large-scale policies often come with trade-offs, benefits in one area and costs in another. Apart from domestic policies, Modi also focused heavily on strengthening India's global presence. He actively engaged in international diplomacy, building relationships with countries like the United States, Japan, and others. His foreign visits, global speeches, and participation in international forums positioned India as a more assertive player on the world stage. Another important aspect of this phase was his communication strategy. Modi consistently used radio programs, social media, and public addresses to connect directly with citizens. This created a strong personal brand, where leadership was not just about policies but also about perception and connection. Overall, this phase defined him as both a policymaker and a global political figure. Understanding the full journey, the life of Narendra Modi is a complete arc, from a small-town boy in Vadnagar to one of the most influential political leaders in the world. This journey is not linear or simple. It includes struggle, discipline, strategic growth, controversies, achievements, and continuous adaptation to changing circumstances. If you look at his life from a purely analytical perspective, one thing becomes clear: long-term success at this scale is never accidental. It's built through years of groundwork, skill development, positioning, and timing. From working at a tea stall to managing national-level campaigns, and then running a country, each phase added a new layer of experience and capability. At the same time, his journey also shows how leadership is always subject to public evaluation. Some people strongly support his decisions, while others strongly criticize them. That's the nature of politics, especially at such a large scale. What matters is understanding the full picture, not just one side of it. So by now, even if you started with zero knowledge, you've seen the complete timeline: childhood, exploration, ideological alignment, political rise, leadership, and global influence. And that's the key takeaway. Every major figure is a product of their journey, and understanding that journey helps you think more clearly, logically, and independently.